Kay Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel. We meet at last.
So, we are visiting a point in the Star Wars timeline that hasn't been visited that often. And in that, I'm sure comes some unique challenges, but also a lot of room for creativity to happen. What made this little chunk of time the perfect one for you guys?
I think that goes back to right at the start where we knew that we wanted to do a scoundrel fantasy, right? We wanted players to experience that. And when we met with Lucasfilm Games, they told us, it just so happens there's this perfect sliver of time. There's a year between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi where this could fit, where, the rebellion is on the run, the Empire is as strong as it's ever been, and the underworld is starting to thrive, right? And so when we realized, we're not necessarily telling a story about Jedi or Sith or rebellion, but we're going to tell a story about a character, Kay Vess, who really grew up as a street thief in the workers' district of Canto Bight and isn't part of that bigger picture. The possibilities just sort of exploded from that, right? Because she's going to get to experience the underworld for the first time, just as players have. And I think when you start going into the underworld, then all these new elements start to come into play.
And it's so fun for us to be able to show that era and some of those so iconic locations and characters from a different perspective. Where Kay is not a character who has traveled the galaxy and knows everything. So you'll actually go on a journey where, if you're a fan of the original trilogy, you will know more about Mos Eisley than she does. You might know Jabba the Hutt, she doesn't. So that perspective is also really fun.
And the last time this time period was really explored was in the Expanded Universe's Shadow of the Empire. Were there any storylines from that or ideas that you were excited to bring into Outlaws?
The game is filled with Easter eggs. I can promise you the team has done their homework. Shadow of the Empire is one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, but I think we'll have to leave it for players to discover very soon on August 30th.
And speaking of things that I'm sure you can't talk about that much, but I'm going to ask about anyway. Players now know from trailers that Crimson Dawn is included as a syndicate, but there are a few other ones like Black Sun that haven't been confirmed yet. Are you able to give any window into if players will be seeing other syndicates they might be familiar with in this game?
I think this is such a unique period of time where Crimson Dawn is also, if you've looked at the comics and the books, there's some interesting things that Kira is up to in this period. And so that felt like a very natural fit for us going into this time frame. And then, of course, we have the Hutts. We have a Shiga clan, which we wanted to bring in as a brand new syndicate to Star Wars. And then, of course, Crimson Dawn. And I think the key thing for us was, how do these syndicates relate to Kay's journey? Does it make sense for her on this path, in these planets that we're crafting, that she's going to run into Crimson Dawn or the Hutts, for example? So that was always our kind of guiding principle. And I think we were very lucky in that we were able to craft, a new syndicate like the Shiga clan, which is, a Melido, almost insect-like species that has a very hierarchical structure that is a syndicate that no one's ever seen before. And so I think that was really exciting for us to explore, and then also how that intersects with the reputation system.
Yeah.
The fact that Kay is going to have to navigate between the three of them on a journey of time.
It's really at the heart of the experience. In the background, always looming is the Empire. Like, this is the height of their power in many ways. And if you break their rules, you'll feel it. Trust me. But navigating the different syndicates it's really your journey. We're not going to tell you when to be on the good or bad side with each one of them. I think it's, as a player of Outlaws, you're really going to have to think, okay, what am I after right now, and what's the best course of action in this moment I'm finding myself in? what action should I take towards what consequence, which is also at the core of the experience.
And it's funny you mentioned places the Crimson Dawn could go if people have read the comics, because my next question was about if fans might be seeing any of the Crimson Reign storyline. I didn't think you'd be able to, but
I tried to say it dramatically, so maybe it would be
with the mic whisper. Yeah, I think that really it sells it. Yeah.
Yeah, players will have to find out soon enough.
And a lot of the Star Wars stories that have been told in the past are very grand scale, good versus evil type things, whereas this is very A, morally ambiguous, and B, much more singular character focused, more so than what's going on in the entire galaxy. When you're making a character where so much is hinging on them to carry the player's investment in that way, what kind of challenges come with that, and where do you even start making Kay from the ground up?
That's a great question. I think for us, it really came back to what are we bringing that's new to this period of time, right? And especially the fact that Kay is self-aligned. We knew very early on that this is a character we don't necessarily see of as part of the rebellion. This is a character that isn't tied to the Jedi, for example. And so suddenly you see someone like, she's one of us, you know? She's someone that I would hang out with and see in a cantina, right? And so from there, everything kind of flowed organically, right? Suddenly, while all this stuff is happening around her, she brings a different sort of unique perspective and goal. And I think, like you said, that sort of morally gray area was so fun to play with, right? And especially the fact that, you know, this is someone who finds herself unexpectedly with a bounty on her back, and she's embarking on this heist across the Outer Rim. She's not concerned about whether the rebels are going to win or not, right? She's got bigger things on her mind, right? So everything really, honestly, I keep going back to the word organic. It just sort of flowed organically from her character. And again, it's her, but also Nyx, who is kind of a bit of the heart and soul of Kay, and then ND5, if you were able to sort of get a chance to play the demo. This is a droid from the Clone Wars that has been an enforcer within the underworld. Again, not part of that necessarily larger picture, but who is working with Kay, whether he likes it or not, then isn't necessarily happy about it. That provides, you know, his own perspective as well. So I think that's been really exciting. And
when you're also creating, like you mentioned, the Ashika clan, and there's also like entirely new planets in this game also that you've created from the ground up. When you're creating new cultures and hierarchies in that way and trying to fit them into existing lore, what is that process like for you guys to make it feel like it does fit within everything that's been established?
I think at the heart of everything we've done in this game, both bringing the already known into our experience, but also creating new things, is a really healthy collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. Genuinely critical to us being able to create that authentic Star Wars feel. Like we often joke internally, like we thought we knew Star Wars when we started, and we quickly realized that we didn't. Like, of course we did, but point being that there's so much depth and nuance to this IP and to this world, and having them as not people who put up walls and no-go zones, but really the helping hand to think about, okay, that sounds great, how do we get there? Combined with, of course, a lot of very, very thorough research and thinking on our end, like what would the local inhabitants of Tushara be like? What's the nature of this place, ranging all the way from nature to what type of planet is it in this era in terms of which syndicates are there, etc.
And I think as well, the fact that we got to craft, you know, our own new contribution in Tushara, but we were also able to bring to life, you know, planets that, for example, Kijimi was in Rise of Skywalker, but we you didn't see a very large facet of the planet, and being able to flesh that out more, or Akiva, which only exists in the books, right? But now we get to craft this whole planet with that as an inspiration, but obviously bringing all sorts of new elements to this, lush, rainforest, jungle that Kay gets to experience. And to Matthias's point, breaking it down in terms of, demographics, history, lore, character, all those things. It was a joy to do. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
And in exploring in this game a world that's very much the criminal underbelly side that we don't often get to see in the Star Wars properties, what sort of fun, unique, creative opportunities has that given you guys in terms of crafting this story and world?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've talked about this a lot with the team is, a lot of the fun and, sort of even the lighthearted side of Star Wars comes from the situations you find yourself in, right? It doesn't come from necessarily characters trying to be funny or that kind of thing. So it was always really fun for us to throw Kay into situations that, she wouldn't expect to be in. I think Jabba's a perfect example. I still remember the story room where we were talking about well, what does that conversation go like, right?
What would I do?
Yeah, what would I do in that situation? And I think it's a great example because it speaks to how Kay is so unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've not really seen that kind of interaction before. All the way to, we wanted to make sure if you're exploring like a city like Miragana, as dense as Miragana within Tashara, that, because we're leaning into the open world aspect of Star Wars, that the people you might run into on the street might have a fun storyline that you could go off to, or they might have something to say about Nyx that Kay might not expect. So I think all of those elements were super, super fun to explore.
I think also it maps perfectly to an open world game is so much about feeling as a player that I have freedom and agency, and pursuing things not because I'm being told to do so, but because I want to. And having the syndicates and the underworld to play with, and the ebb and flow of what they think of you, depending on what choices you made towards certain opportunities, that also come with threats. Because you siding with the Shield over here might not be something that the Hutts are thrilled about. So I think it really becomes the fabric of your experience, and not just the story we're telling you, but the story that you're creating by playing through the game and making your own journey, your own adventure.
Hang on!